Hey guys, what's up? So in this one I want to show you how to create this slider over here. So we'll be able to create a div where we can scroll items by swiping left and right, and we are also going to add functionality such that we can scroll these items when a user clicks these left and right icons. So it's going to be interesting. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we are going to be putting it on top of the list. So as you noticed in the original one, we have headers for each of these. So we have the start one and the all one. So let's add headers and then we start working on that slider for the favorites. So here, if we go to the list, so before we show the list, actually, I'm going to set up a header here. So you can have header. So this one is gonna say like all contacts. I'm also gonna have one that will read something like favorites. I'm actually gonna call it starred because they are starred and they have a star on them. Okay, so this one's gonna be called starred, this one's gonna be called all. So here we will have our slider, but before we go there, I want to first import the header correctly. So this is actually an app header, so I can rename the way I'm importing it such that it diverts from the semantic one. So now when we're importing this, we want to make sure we're importing it from semantic. So when we import and go back, reload, you see we have all here and then starred. So now we want to work in the starred. So in the starred, I'm going to be moving everything actually away. So here I'm gonna have a component called favorites. So favorites is gonna take in the data to display. So the data is going to be the current contacts, which would be data, and then so I'm actually going to change this one to favorites. So it's going to take in the current contacts who are favorited, so we can get those by filtering the list. So we can filter. So we're going to filter items, so we return items that are favorite. So we can check the is favorite property, and if it's favorite, then it's going to return us an array, and we'll use that in the favorites. So I'm also going to pass the loading for the parent contacts and then the error. Yeah, so I'm also going to pass in the loading for the parent contacts just so we can also loading on the favorites. So I'm going to go here in the layout. So actually I can keep in the list. I can keep here and I'll create a folder called favorites, and in there I can have an index.js file. So this will be a functional component. It's gonna be called favorites. So it's taking in data, so we can pick it and loading. So for now we can check if it's loading and we show a placeholder. So this one we can be showing an image, so we want to pass image there. Okay, so let's make sure we're importing this here. So favorites, import from here. So now if we go back to the application, let's reload. See the start. Oh, the loader is not in the list. Want to make sure that the whole loading thing is below the header. So we can have it here. So I'm gonna have the same thing to load in the favorites. So I can copy this, and then in favorites, instead of having this, I can just have this. But these I will keep them small. Okay. Then I think there's something we need to close. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we need to move this here. So loading, we should that. Oh, we need to have an and here. So you see they all loads here, then loads here, then when this one's done, this one goes away. So we need to show a list here. So we're actually going to create this list from scratch, but what you've noticed is we're going to need a picture and a name down, and they should be vertical. So here I'm going to check if we have data. So we can check data. I'm actually going to check dot length to make sure we have the items to show. Those will be the contacts. And then in here, I'm going to have a div So I'm going to give it a class of items container. So it's going to be called items container. So in here, now we can have the list. So we are going to now map over the data. So we can do data dot map. So when we map, we can get an item. So here you can get an item, and then we'll get the index. So this now wrap this in a function because we are getting two parameters. So here, once we do this, now we want to return the contact. So the contact will have, like we said, it will have a picture on top and the name down. So we can do that by having another div inside. So this div is going to have a picture, and here we are actually going to use our thumbnail. So we created the image thumb, so it's image thumb. We need to give it the first name and last name, as you remember. So first name will be first name, the last name, then the source. Okay, so now this will be equal to item dot first name. This will be item last name, and then the last one will be contact picture. Now down here we can go ahead and display the name. So inside the div, just after the picture, you can have a simple paragraph. So this one I'm going to give it a class of name. So class equals name. So inside we can try the first name and last name. So I will use item dot first name, and then we have item dot last name. Let me actually copy this one too, so you can have them here. Okay, so p class name that. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, so this should be inside this one. All right, so once we have that, we need to make sure this has a key. So we can set key equals I. So key will be item dot ID, because each contact has an ID. So if you come back to the application, so we need to make sure we are passing data. So going to the list, we pass it as favorites. So I'm gonna come over here, change this one to favorites. Make sure we are getting it. Okay. So if you come back again, it's gonna load first name of undefined. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so let's first make sure that this is an array in the first place. So to check if a variable is an array, you can use array.isArray, and then you can give it what you want to check. That will return a true or false if it's an array, and also if it's not, return false. So let's see how we're actually doing it. Is favorite. Let's console log. So before we render this for now, let's first console log the data so we see the property we have on the is favorite. So if we come back in the console, we should see that data has a key is underscore favorite. So that's the one we want. So actually it's correct. Okay, so favorites is this, loading is that. When we come here, we get favorite and loading. Let's check for greater than 0 actually, because we want to know what exactly is happening. So console log the favorites. Just gonna reload, and now if you go to the console, you see we have favorites. So favorites is an array. So in this array, we have first name. Yeah, so it actually has everything. So let's see what you're doing with the map. So you're doing favorites dot map. Then let me keep one parameter here. So when we map over this, we should be getting an item as 1. So doing item dot first name should be giving us actually what we want. So let's take a look. Favorites. We got. So I'm gonna copy here in the map. I'm gonna cut out everything actually. So before we return, first we will map like this, and then we will get an object in there. So I'm gonna console log item, so we can see what we have, and then we return the later. So once I come there, you can see we have item here. So item actually has the is favorite. So do they have the first name and last name? First name, last name, yes. So we can have return a div with the key, the image, then the p, first name, last name. Oh yeah, so we are doing item.item. So that was a problem. So now if you come back and reload, yeah, you'll notice that on the start it shows our start, and then it goes ahead to show our all. So this is good. This is what we want. So we are also going to want to have icons, the left and right icons here and here, and then make sure they are horizontal. So outside the items container on this div, I'm going to give this one a class of slide container, and then we will also give it the icons. So we can have the left icon, so we can have icon here. For this one will be caret left, so caret left. Okay, so we want to make sure it's large by asking for the size of large. So out here we can do size equals large. Okay, we will have an on click that will be dynamically changing which items we are seeing. So for now it's going to be simple function, it will be doing nothing. So I'm going to copy this and also make sure we have but here we also have the caret right. Okay, so now if you come back again, it's going to reload. You can see we have the left one, and at the end we have the right one. So how do we make these ones go from left to right? Is we are going to first get the container which has these items and then the icons, and make sure that it is displayed flex and it can go from left to right. So we can do that. If we go here, we need to create a CSS file. So we can create a CSS file. Let me do this. It's going to be called style.css. So right here, I'm going to create a file called style.css, and here we can target the slide container. So we can do slide container, and for that one we want it to display flex. So we also want things to go in the center, so you can put align items center. So since this whole container we want it to go from left to right and we want it to scroll, we're going to need to manage the overflow. So the only way we can manage the overflow if we have a width or a maximum width on this container. So here I'm going to come in and add another property. So it's going to be max width. So max width, I'm going to set it to 57 rem units. So once we do that, we want on the y-axis overflow, so to overflow and also allow the scroll. So what we do is add another property called overflow y, and we're going to set that one to auto. Okay, so what that's going to do is you can see that the right is here, and then the items, so you can see that the right is here, the items are on the center, and this is here. So what we do, let's also style the individual contacts so they can go from left to right. I think that will be easy to look at. So you notice that here where we have the return, we are going to have a class here. So this class is going to be single item container. Okay, so now I can copy this class, and here I can have it. So this single item container is basically this one item. So basically what you can do on this item is give it like a margin or a padding. So let's give it a padding from the other items. So you can do padding. Let's do something like 20 pixels. Let's make sure that the name is centered in the middle. So you can add like text align center. Okay. Let's make sure that when a user hovers above it, it gets the pointer. So you can add the cursor pointer. Then yeah, I guess that's it. We can give it a mean width so that it can be a little bit bigger. So it can be, you can have a mean width there, so like 10 rem. So we also need to style this, so the items container itself, and that will be the one responsible to push these ones from left to right. So here you can have items container. So in the items container, this will be these items container. So we want them to go from left to right. So we can do display flex. So when we do display flex, actually you see what happens here. Oh yeah, so it's already it's actually working. So when we do display flex, they go from left to right, and yeah, looking good. So we will overflow y hidden. So overflow y hidden. So meaning that when we go above this width, this will not show. So it will be cut. So also we want to make sure that we have, since this is a flex, let's center everything. So justify content center. Then we want to, let's also give it a margin. So margin, so the margin can be 0 pixels, 5 pixels on the right. So I want to make sure that on the right and on the left we have some margins. So I'm gonna set to the right and then to the left. So also what we want us to do, if we come back again, you can see that now we are not exceeding this place. So you can see that now the overflow y hidden cuts everything from here. So we would want to actually get rid of this scroll bar. So the way we get rid of the scroll bar is we can come here and then we are going to target it. It's on items container. So we will target it, and then we can, on it, we can target WebKit scroll bar. So WebKit scroll bar. Okay, so what we do is we can do display none. So when we do display none, you can see that it goes away. So meaning that now we have this the swipe left and right, and it's working fine. Let's make sure that our thumbnails are actually okay, because you can see they are like distorted. So how we pass in the favorites, we need to pass a style. So we can pass style equals, so here we can have width 45, height 45, and height should be written correctly. So height. So once we supply the height and it loads, you will see that it comes and it's quite bigger, and it's of the same size as this. So if we increase it to something like 75, so it's gonna go ahead and increase this and also increase this. So I think this looks much better. So now we need a way to actually handle the clicks. So you notice that this button here is outside and this one is inside. So we need this button to be visible all the time. So what we can do is here where we have it, we need to make sure it's outside. We need to make sure it's outside this div. So it should be outside the items container, just like this one is outside. So we can have it, so still inside this div, that would be like here. We can have it like here. So now if we come back, you notice that it's outside at all the times. Okay, so good. So now we need a way to handle the click such that when we click here, we automatically go to the left. When we click here, we automatically go to the right. So for us to be able to do that, we are going to need access to the container here so that we can scroll it programmatically. So we are going to be using refs. So to be able to scroll this one dynamically, we are going to need to attach a ref to this list, to this scrollable list, and then add an on-click listener that changes stuff using the ref. So we'll come here and set up a ref. So we can have something like const list ref. This is gonna be use ref. So ref is gonna be, we're gonna have a null by default. So let's import use ref from React. Okay, so once we have the use ref, now we can set this ref to the list. So we'll go to the items container and add this ref. So we can do ref equals list ref. Okay, so when a user clicks on the left one, we want to handle a function called scroll left. So I'm gonna create this. So I'm gonna come over here and do const scroll left. It's gonna be function. So what it's gonna do is it's going to get access to the ref. So it's gonna do, we can check if we want to check if the ref has a value. So if it has a value, then we want to scroll that ref. So we can do that. Then we call scroll by. So scroll by takes in options. So in the options, we want it to go to the left. So we can pass left. So left, we can say go to the left by, 200. we can also supply a behavior. So that should be behavior, and then we can say it should be smooth. The scroll should be smooth. So we also need to give it a top, just so it knows how to handle that. So give it a top 0, then a left, and then a behavior. Okay, so let's have another one for the scrolling to the right. So I'm gonna copy this, then this one is gonna be scroll right. So once we have this, now we can keep everything, and then this one will be scrolling using a negative value. Okay, so the scroll length will be the same, but then this will be scrolling to the opposite direction. So that's, we give it that negative 200. So if we come here, we need to set up this one too. So here we can have on click. So on click is going to be calling this. Let me change the size to huge just so you can see them better. Make sure that this one is also huge. So size huge. Okay. So we want to make sure we are passing the ref, list ref. Okay, so I think everything is looking okay. Let's go ahead and test it out. So if we come back, we have these buttons. Clicking on one, you can see when I click on the left one, it scrolls to the left. When I click on the right one, it scrolls to the right. Okay, so we can scroll using that, and we can also scroll using this. Okay, so which is good, which is what we want. I'm gonna be pausing the video here. Probably next time I'll come and we'll study it a little bit better. So if you enjoyed it, consider giving it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.